Welcome back to FreeDU Hub. Today we are going to cover module number 2, which would talk about attack vectors and mitigation strategies. This is our module number 2, and as you remember, we covered the first module before that, and in that module we covered some of the basics on information security. So today we'll be focusing on attack vectors and mitigation strategies. Now, in that, first of all, the first thing which comes to our mind is social engineering. Now, there are different forms of social engineering attacks which you see on daily basis. Now, our organizations and the staff, even though we are providing lots of training to the users, still they fall victim of social engineering attacks. Now, social engineering are the tactics used to manipulate individuals into divulging confidential and personal information for fraudulent purposes. So it could be anything, a person who might call you and try to pose as if they are calling from a known company, but they would try to gather some information about you, your organization, the kind of systems you're using, and how you're dealing with your overall network infrastructure. Now, when we talk about social engineering attacks, we have different types of it, like phishing, spear phishing, whaling, wishing, and smishing. So we'll go one by one and we'll try to understand that what are they. Now, just keep in mind that the course is designed in a way that it is actually focusing on the key topics which are covered as far as CompTIA Security certification is concerned. We will be covering all the key terms in that as much as possible so that you are prepared for the certification exam. I might add the references to the books that we are using in order to prepare these slides. Now, first of all, we have phishing. Now, phishing is the deceptive communication designed to elicit sensitive information. Now, for example, if you are receiving an email which claims that it's coming from a bank and it verifies the account details and it gives you a link. So, usually people click on the link without checking that where the email came from actually. Now, just to show you as an example that, for example, I received this email on my Gmail and there is a link over here. So either if we are going to click on this one or we are going to click on the link which they might have sent, you can see that on this left hand corner you would see the link which is there. So you really don't need to click on the link. You can first verify that what is the information which appears on your left hand side and read that if it is taking you to a rogue website or anything. The other way could be that you can note down the address from here. If I'm clicking on this one, as you can see, I have highlighted the part. You can note down the address of the website and then you can open it in a browser yourself or in incognito mode just to see that if that website exists or not. So it should be communicated to the employees, whoever is working in your organization, that whenever you'll receive an email, maybe it would look like that it's coming from our organization, but you'll have to verify the email address, the name of the sender, and the link, and verify the link that if it is coming from our organization or it's an external link associated with that. Then we have spear phishing, which is highly targeted phishing attacks aimed at specific individuals. An email tailored to individual employee using the personal information to gain trust. So it is usually targeted, for example, people in finance or accounting. So the emails which would be drafted, it would be drafted in a way that it would look like that it is intended for the person to whom this email has been sent. Now, they spend a lot of time in finding the individuals who are working in respective departments in your organization. So they would craft a phishing email which would have your name, your department designation, and other details. So once you'll receive it, you would think that it is actually intended for you, but they are actually trying to get some information, or maybe they would convince you to click on the link so that once you'll click on the link, it might take you to another website, or a malware will be downloaded on your computer through which they will be able to take control of your computer. The other type is whaling. Now, it's a phishing attack directed at the senior executives or the higher level targets. For example, a crafted email targeting the company's CEO, mimicking a legal issue which could lead to extraction of sensitive data, which we say as data exfiltration. So it would be crafted in the same language, which would be easily understood by the senior executives, telling them about the vulnerabilities which could be there in your system. Quite possible that they are not there, but they would send an email like that where the executives would be sort of trapped in those kind of the text which comes in those emails, that maybe is it really us or someone is just playing around. Then we have a thing called wishing. Now, it comes from the word voice, so it's a voice call. It's a phone-based phishing that manipulates the user into revealing the personal information. A caller from a fraudster posing as a bank official asking for the credit card details over the phone, or it might ask you for a one-time password that you might have received on your mobile phone or on your authenticator app. So anyone who calls and tries to get your confidential information, let it be the social security number or anything which is of a confidential nature, you should never disclose any information over the phone. The best way to deal with that situation is that you can ask for their callback number or ask them to send you an email on your official account, so that in the meantime you can verify the details of the person who's actually calling you. And if you feel like, and if you're convinced that it is actually a call from a bank, only then. But usually banks, whenever they would call, they would never ask for your credit card details or your social security number or your email address or your mobile number, because those details are already available in their databases. Then we have smishing. Smishing comes from the word as SMS phishing, where the attackers could send the malicious text messages, a text message to a user claiming that you have won a prize, and for the details click on this link. So it's just like you're receiving a message in your email. So if you'll click on that link, you'll end up to a rogue website, or maybe something would be downloaded on your mobile phone, through which they would take access to your details. So we'll have to be very careful about phishing and smishing. And phishing is very dangerous these days because it's a voice message, and we know that through AI we can generate a voice which would sound like as if it's coming from one of your loved ones. So we'll have to be very careful in dealing these kind of situations. Then the other type is impersonation. Assuming another identity to access their privileges, an attacker may pretend that it's an IT staff member to gain access to your company servers. Just like if someone would call you and say that, for example, we have identified that your database server has been compromised and you have not patched it for the past 2 years. So if you can give us access, so we can patch it so that you can save yourself from any sort of data leak or anything like that. Again, the same thing, you can never trust anyone, regardless if they say that we are calling from Microsoft or Oracle or any big company. You'll have to verify those details and never ever try to provide any information over the phone. Then we have watering hole attacks, that they are compromising website frequently visited by target groups to distribute the malware. Now, infecting a popular industry blog with malware that targets visitors from specific companies. So it would be a famous website which is accessed by lots of people on daily basis. So what they would do is that they would have some malwares or maybe adwares where the advertisements would be appearing on their websites, and if you'll hover over, it would open a pop-up and maybe it would take you to a different website. And if you are clicking or entering any information, as soon as you'll press submit or anything, something would be downloaded from those websites to your computer, thus infecting your system or maybe the entire network. Then dumpster diving is this is the process where people would look into trash to find the information that can be used for further attacks. For example, searching the company's dustbins, etc., to find discarded documents or sensitive information which has not been properly shredded and they are just thrown away in the garbage cans. Now they might have some useful information on it, like account details, maybe the transactions they had, maybe the contractor details, the transactions and the financial transactions, etc. So we must be very careful in discarding the sensitive information by properly shredding them before you'll throw it away in the garbage. Then we have Google dorking. It's the using the advanced Google search techniques to find the security holes in the configuration of the websites. Now, utilizing specific search queries to uncover the unprotected files and the directories on the company website. Now, Google is a search engine, but if used in a different way, you can find lots of other information which could be posted on those websites. So as you can see, I am on Google. So if I want to search in any website like CNN.com, and on CNN.com, if I would like to find anything about the technology and maybe an AI, and I'll press enter. So what it would do is that, as you can see, that all results over here are related to CNN, because I told that look in CNN website where you can find any information related to technology or AI. Now if I want to search in CNN website and I want to find out that if there are any PDF documents on CNN website, so I'll type in file type and then I'll type PDF and press enter. So as you can see, it has listed all the PDF documents which are available on their website. So if your website is not properly configured, or maybe you would like to find any documents which could be hosted over there, we can find some information from 2017. But likewise, you can change the file type and change these handles in order to find specific information on those websites. Now that helps us in understanding that how Google helps us in identifying certain information on these websites. Then we have shoulder surfing. It's direct observation technique to get the personal data such as the passwords or PIN numbers. Observing someone entering a PIN or the ATM or the password at the login screen. It usually happens that if you are entering a password, you might notice that there is someone who's constantly looking at you, that what sort of information you are entering. It usually happens with the people who are not good in using these technologies. So if someone is using the laptops or maybe the mobile phones and they are entering the PIN code quite slow, someone can easily note that down and maybe they can compromise your data based on the PIN code that you just entered. Then we have perimeter defense, which is the physical security, measures taken to prevent unauthorized access to the facilities, resources, and information. So just like we are talking about digital security, the physical security plays an important role in protecting our assets and information, which is there maybe in our data centers. Now, the barriers are there. These are the obstacles that prevent or deter the access, so that we are restricting the access, or it is not easily accessible by maybe cars or trucks or heavy moving vehicles, which could come in the area where you have sensitive servers or the data centers which are maintaining the entire information of the organization. Security guards could be there, personals which are dedicated for the physical security of the property. Maybe you could have sensors, devices that could detect the intrusion and unauthorized movements in those areas. Nowadays, even if we have the AI-enabled CCTV cameras or the surveillance cameras, they can detect the movement. Even they have the sensors for heat and temperature, etc., which can tell us and can trigger an alarm if the temperature level is above certain limit, which could affect the equipment in the data centers. Then we have man traps, which are the security devices that control the access to secure the areas through small places. We don't want people to flood in the areas where there is sensitive information, and we want to make sure that only one person enters at a time. So we can have man traps over there, or we can have locks, which are mechanical or digital systems to secure the entry points. Now there could be different sort of locks which could be used. Now example could be a data center uses multiple layer of security, including the barriers, biometric locks, or man traps to control the access to these servers and sensitive areas. Now we have to be careful about preventing the data leakage, electromagnetic data protection, etc. Now, security measures designed to shield the sensitive information of the electromagnetic interference and prevent the data leakage. Now, you know that if you have the network cables which are going around in your organization and they are freely hanging around, there are devices with the help of which we don't even need to penetrate on the network on anything. We can just connect the devices on the cables and it can detect what sort of data is traveling or information is traveling through those cables. So in order to protect that, we have Faraday cages, which are enclosures used to block the electromagnetic fields, and EMI mitigation strategies to shield the equipment from external electromagnetic interference. Now, military facilities usually use Faraday cages around the critical communication equipment to prevent the inception and the leakage of signals, etc. Now, we have data classification levels. For data sensitivity, classification can be based on the level of the security, which requires due to the sensitivity of the information. Now, in order to control the data and the sensitivity of information, they'll be classified into public, private, sensitive, confidential, restricted, and critical documents, etc. Now, how it's done is that if you'll search for DLP, data loss prevention programs and things, just like a product from Microsoft, it's called Microsoft Purview data loss prevention. If it is deployed in your organization, it's a intelligent detection and control of sensitive information like Office 365, OneDrive, SharePoint, Microsoft Teams, and endpoints, etc. So it would make sure that if you have marked any documents as confidential or highly confidential, no one would be able to share those documents, attach them as an email, maybe save it in drafts, or even modify them if they are marked as sensitive and they have certain policies on it. So it's a really good feature that we have if we are implementing anything like that, where we can categorize the things when we are designing or when we are working on those documents. So whenever you want to create a new document, for example, in Office 365, the first thing it would ask you that whether it's a public document, private, sensitive, confidential, restricted, or critical. Once you'll select a level, it would set the policies which are in accordance with the level, and it would automatically control that if you are allowed to send it as an attachment, maybe copying it in a USB or sharing it on the network. So all those things would be taken care of by these things so that we will be secure and our data will not be leaked in public. Now, the public level is the information that can be openly shared with the general public. So government public records are published with the white papers, etc. Private information is the personal data that is restricted to individuals to whom it pertains. So it would make sure that it is private and it does not leave the organization. Personal emails, residential address, and phone numbers, etc. Then we have sensitive information that could cause harm if disclosed, employees' performance reviews and the customer profile information, etc. Then we have confidential data that is legally restricted to certain people or groups. So the medical records, your legal documents, or the personal financial information could fall in that. Then we have restricted, which is data that is highly sensitive and accessible only to a small size of groups. Classified government documents, corporate grade secrets, etc. Then I have critical, which is essential data that requires the highest level of security due to importance of the organization, data center access codes, and the major infrastructure things, etc. So we categorize the data based on these things. Now, further organizational data types could be categorized based on the legal protection that we have. For example, regulated data, intellectual property, trade secrets, legal information, financial, human readable, and non-readable. Now, regulated data is subject to governance standards, legal compliance, etc., like the GDPR, or we have HIPAA compliance, which tells us that if it is a regulated data and there should be certain instructions or set of rules which has to be in place and followed just to make sure that we are really taking HIPAA and GDPR in a very serious way. Then we have intellectual property that holds the value for its creator or the commercial content, for example, the patents, copyright, software code, and artistic work. So it's the responsibility of the law enforcement agencies to make sure that they are making sure that the information does not leak out, and the true owner of those patents or copyrights are being paid for that. Now, trade secrets could be proprietary business information which is not publicly available. It's a protected for secrecy purposes, like secret formulas, processes, or maybe the recipes used exclusive by the company. Legal information could be data pertaining to legal matters and obligations, like the contracts, court orders, legal communications. So if you have a contract with a third party company, it could be a legal information which you are not supposed to disclose it to the public. Financial information is data related to monetary transactions, financial status, etc. Your bank accounts can fall into that, transaction histories, and financial statements. Now we have human readable data information which is accessible by humans without interpretation, for example, text documents, printed documents, and emails, etc. Now we have non-human readable data as well, which requires mechanical or digital interpretations. For example, binary code, machine language, encrypted data, or we can say that if you have the QR codes, of course, we need machines to read that. There is lots of information which is hidden in that. Now, data breach consequences could lead to outcome damages resulting to unauthorized access or to disclosure of data. For example, the financial losses for the organization, direct or indirect. Reputational damage, loss of trust from customers and partners, because once they'll know that you couldn't protect the information of the customers, they would have less trust in you, or maybe it would affect even your stocks in the stock market. Operational disruptions, with the interruptions to the normal business activities, etc. So the example could be a company retail experiences a data breach to expose the customer payment information, leading to substantial financial losses and damage to its brand reputation, because people would not like to have their credit cards and rest of the information stored on your servers. Now, when we are talking about data, we have three different states of data, which are the approaches, which are the methods to safeguard the data at all different stages, which is data processing, data in transit, and data at rest. So data in processing is the protection of data is actively being used for computations, etc. Now, encrypting the data feeds in the live databases during the active transaction to prevent unauthorized access during the processing, etc., would save us from lots of other things. Now, this is the data which is constantly accessed, changed, and we are constantly working with the data. So that sort of data is categorized as data processing. Data in transit is securing the data as it moves along. For example, if we are using any encryption methods like SSL or TLS, etc., where the packet travels from the network and from the web server to the browser, ensuring the secure web communications, etc. So any protocols that we are using in order to make sure that our communication is secure, that's data in transit. Then data at rest is ensuring that the data stored on the device is secure from unauthorized access, implementing full disk encryption or the laptop servers, etc. That's data at rest. We can also say that the data which is saved on your hard drives is also an example of data at rest. Then we have data security methods, which are the technologies used to minimize the exposure and vulnerability of data. First of all, we have data minimization, limiting the collection and storage and use of data to what is strictly used for. Now, a company will only collect the necessary customer details for transactions, avoiding the unnecessary personal information. Same thing goes that if you would visit a bank account in order to open a bank account, they would get the information from you which is really required in order to open a bank account. Any sort of information which is more than what is required would be a burden for the organization to then protect it, so that no one takes that information, because of course you know that you shared those details with the bank. Now, data masking is concealing the data elements to prevent unauthorized access of sensitive information. Masking the first 12 digits of the credit card number or the customer service system, displaying only the last 4 digits, could be data masking, where we are showing the information only for verification purposes, but we are not telling the exact number. You might have seen that if you will withdraw some money from the ATM, it would show that the amount which has been withdrawn from the ATM and last 3 or 4 digits of the card that you use in order to perform that transaction. Now, tokenization is replacing sensitive data with non-sensitive placeholders. For example, using the tokens to represent the payment information in retail databases, ensuring that actual payment details are not stored. So they would shift, but those tokenization and the information would be only available to the banks or the authorities which are actually changing the information of the sensitive data to non-sensitive placeholders. Now, restrictions is the control of the data limit, data access based on roles and responsibilities, implementing access control list. For example, restrict the employee's access to sensitive financial records and based on their job functions. Remember, we talked about in module number 1, CIA triad, where we talked about confidentiality, integrity, and availability. With that, we talked about AAA, which is authentication, authorization, and accounting. So as you can see, the restriction falls in the category of authorization, where we'll have to authorize the users who can access certain things based on their roles and responsibilities. Now, segmentation is dividing network resources into separate segments to control the access and reduce the potential attack vectors. Now, creating separate network segments on the guest users to ensure that they do not have access to the corporate network. Same thing goes that in our organizations, we segment the traffic based on the departments as well. Now, if for example, you have HR, marketing, IT, and other departments, so we segment the traffic so that if there is a vulnerability identified in HR, it should remain over there and it should not affect the other departments. In the meantime, we'll try to make sure that how can we resolve that issue. So the more segmentation you would have, the less problems you will have in case of any sort of DDoS attack, or maybe if it's a data exfiltration or anything like that. So we can really control these segments of traffic which is flowing on our network. So that was our lecture on access vectors and mitigation strategies.